What's up, everybody? Welcome into your TBC Weekly, your usual Sunday night playground. We're talking Buckeye football, obviously. Um, we've had some weirdos kind of pop into the channel lately. So this is about Ohio State football. So whoever's complaining in the comments, thank you for your complaints. They are not being listened to. Anyway, we're waiting for Shawn to join. Jeff, again, is MIA for who knows why. A lack of give a shit factor, I would call it. GSF, low GSF factor by Jeff is how I would paint it. We'll see when Shawn joins, if he ever does. Who knows? So I'm just coming to the grips with doing this show on my own tonight, but who knows? It might be a better show that way. I think they kind of hold the show back sometimes, right? Am I wrong? Let me know. Anyway, getting into the chat, we hope you guys will pop in here with your questions and comments. I've got a ton of shit to talk about tonight. I mean, we're going to get into, don't freak out. I just want to mention 2 sentences on NIL. Don't turn off the show just yet. These are quick ones. But we're going to talk about spring position battles. Who won a spot this spring across the board at some of the key positions that were up for grabs. And I think if Jeff or Shawn or whoever shows up, we'll do a draft. We're going to draft offense and defense, 4 rounds. That's it. You know, we don't need to go 20 deep or anything like that. So whoever shows up, we're going to do a draft. Someday, actually, we should probably just open it up to you guys in the chat, and we'll just do a draft. It takes a while for the chat to show up, so it's a little difficult because guys will get taken, and then people will be trying to take those guys. You know, it could get messy. But I would like to do that one day. Have a live draft with the chat. So where should we start? Oh, I know where we need to start. This is not difficult. Our guy, let's share him here. Get in here.
Hi, my name is Tyvis Powell, former Ohio State Buckeye and national champion DB. Welcome to the Buckeye Cast. These guys was born and bred in the Buckeye State, and they like to talk Buckeye football and drink bourbon. Subscribe to the show. Now pour up a drink and pull up a stool. Here's your host, Joe Warwick. Get him, Joe.
All right, Tyvis, my guy, back in here. Appreciate you basically moving the chains, even though you're on defense. But let's get into, first off, let's talk about the big headlines this week across college football. And I promise I'm going to get to all your questions and comments in the chat. You know, let me come up with a good question for the chat, because I like to give you guys like a team wins, over under stuff. We talked about it on Friday. We did Colorado. We did the Cheaters. Let's talk about team wins. I'm going to give you a team. Let's go. Ooh. Anybody in the Big Ten worth looking at? Not really. I think we talked Penn State as well. Penn State and Michigan are both 9.5 wins on the over-unders. Let's go SEC. Yeah, let's go Georgia. Let's go to Georgia, the big dogs in the SEC, 10.5. Let me post this question to the chat. All right. Juck on Bucks is in the chat. All right. Good to see you, Juck. I checked out your channel. We gotta get together sometime, maybe. So let's go Georgia. over. Let's go. Over under 10.5 wins. There we go. Boom. Let me pin that shit. So yeah, I'll be reading your comments throughout the night. And I'll tell you what, we're going to go through their schedule. I'll go through it because I'm really curious. I haven't taken a deep dive into it, and I'm waiting for Phil Steele's strength of schedules to come out. You know, we're getting close to, you know, preview magazine season. So I definitely want to know what he thinks. But we'll get into that in just a couple minutes. I'm going to keep delaying until hopefully Shawn gets on. And until then, please hit the BuckeyeCast.com. We got the video vault up and running. You got 300 videos in there right now. I'm adding things every day. All your recruiting highlights are in there. Your Buckeye legend videos, you know, highlights of Eddie George, freaking Troy Smith, everybody. And I'm adding more. Obviously, I haven't gotten to everybody yet, and we have condensed games in there from seasons and seasons. I've got 2012, 13, 14, and a bunch more condensed games. Got the Rose Bowls from like 69, 68, 69, you know, the Jack Tatum Rose Bowls and shit like that, where they're going up against the Juice Man, OJ. But please support the show. I really appreciate it. And everything's on sale at the BuckeyeCast.com. All the gear, hats, shirts, all the shit. And, you know, we do the rush hour every Friday at 4:30 p.m. Eastern. You get your daily blitz every morning in your ear holes, 365. We've been doing that for almost 2 years now. The daily Buckeye Blitz. So hope you're enjoying that. Quick 10-minute, maybe a little more, maybe a little less, 10 minutes of Buckeye info and shit. So starting off, we talked about this on Friday. The helmet comms are coming. The Connor Stallions rule, let's call it. So we're getting the helmet comms. You saw that in the spring game. If you watched the spring game, and I hope you did, you saw Chip Kelly on the sideline with the little walkie-talkie giving the plays into the quarterbacks. So that's huge. I hope no longer a need for the fucking signs and signals and all that. They're also doing the tablets like the NFL does. So I don't know how useful that is. It might be. But the big one is the 2-minute warning, as far as, you know, from a fan's point of view, seeing that fucking 2-minute warning in the fourth quarter there. That's going to help teams that are down, you know, teams that are looking for a late minute score or last second score, you know. It's extra timeout, so that's good. So we'll see what happens. Obviously, it's another opportunity for the TV networks to give us a commercial break, which we don't get enough of, right? I mean, fuck. Could these guys put more commercial breaks in the goddamn games? It's really frustrating, but one thing, and I can hear as soon as I say these words, these 3 letters, I can hear people shutting off the show, but just give me 2 sentences. All right, let me get 2 sentences out. Please do not turn off the show. So the NCAA is now facing 5 NIL cases where the National Labor Relations Board is saying student athletes is not a thing. You guys have been using that against the students, the players, and you've been preventing them from benefiting. So NIL is about to go nationwide, and this is going state by state slowly. Right now, you got Notre Dame just on Thursday, they violated the National Labor Relations Act by labeling student athletes when they're actually employees. So this is a big deal because you're going to see this accelerate over this coming year. And I know we're already through April almost, but USC just went through the same thing. So these are big schools. These are not shitty little schools. You got Nebraska, Virginia, Mississippi. This week, they just signed bills to change their NIL laws. This is a big deal. So it seems like within a year, you could see players, all football and basketball players, being employees and being paid accordingly. And then NIL be coming in under the athletic department's umbrella. So they control it. It's not outside agencies. So I see that I think that's the future, but we'll see how it goes. It's going to take a little time. Again, nothing moves quickly with the NCAA or governments. So,
hey, Joe, just jumped in. I couldn't agree with you more. And it's got to go to some type of regulated thing. If not, it's going to be the Wild West. It's going to be so stupid. The next kid that invents cold fusion and makes $1 trillion could make Cornell the perennial national champion. It's got to be. We got to regulate this somehow. I feel like Ohio State's been good at it and not the best. I mean, maybe we are the best now because you don't really know the numbers on the NIL and the money's coming in or whatnot. But I don't think it's good for the game long term.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
That these guys are. Yeah, I kind of want them on the dole of the universities of the states. And let's regulate it. And I don't know why what's the big hard up with the student athlete though? Because they are getting paid.
It's about the label. It's the label being misused and they're actually employees.
I mean, they still have to go to. I mean, is there still a requirement for big time football kids to get grades and stuff?
I think it's pretty flimsy at best, right? I mean,
I do too. When's the last time you saw a big time kid getting sacked because his grades weren't right?
Oh yeah, you're not going to miss a game anymore for bad grades or missing a class too many times. That's not happening. Yeah, you don't even see it. I mean, you occasionally see it early in the season against those crappy non-con games. If somebody didn't pass a drug test, you think back to the Bosa's, Braxton. There was 1 week, I think it was the first week of the season, where
we had drug tests, but not your biology test. It's like, we can work on this.
Right. I mean, everything is negotiable, it seems, if they're football players, right? But I didn't want to spend too much time on the NIL crap. I just wanted to point out that this is moving quickly and it's across the country. It's not just 1 or 2 states. It's Nebraska, Virginia, Mississippi, USC, Notre Dame. So it's all across the place and it's going to move quickly. A lot of it has to do with the presidential election as well, and election season in general, not just the presidential election, but they want to get these bills moved in before election season, so we'll see. You want to talk about position battles? Anything that you saw from spring? Did you see any movement in things like the quarterback, number 1, between Will Howard and Devin Brown? Did you see
you still
separation? What's that?
I lost you there for a moment.
Okay. Did you see a separation in these spring position battles? Like starting with the quarterbacks, Will Howard versus Devin Brown, right? Did you see any separation? I mean, we've had a very small sample size with
no, not at all. And not at all. I actually thought, And I don't think you see that much. The coaches, I'm sure, see more than I do. But the only time I've ever really seen a spring game mean really anything is when it was Haskinsboro. I don't. I think it's a glorified practice. Coaches know what they know and are evaluating certainly. But no, and I don't think it's I think it's on purpose. They're not trying to get their business out there in front of a bunch of people. Like,
Right.
hey, this is what we're doing. So probably of all the practices and all the internal scrimmages that they do, the spring game maybe I don't know. It may give you the only thing that I would think of value in the spring game, especially for the young kids, is can you play in the stadium? And there
Yeah.
was 80,000 people, I think, at that spring game.
Right. The environment. Yeah.
Yeah. Can you handle this vibe? Because it's big and
Right.
it's a pressure cooker. But I don't know. I don't think you learn much from spring games typically. I mean, especially, I mean, these kids have been in there, they've been working, they've been doing, they already know. The coaches know.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think the players know, most importantly, like Ryan Day and Chip Kelly have said, Chip Kelly, especially after the spring game, he was saying, the players know, especially when it comes to the quarterback battle, they're in there, they see it. There are no surprises, even in the quarterback position room itself. When it comes to the pecking order, there's no surprises there. They're constantly aware of where they stand, right? So I feel like Will Howard has stepped over Devin Brown. I feel like some of the comments from Ryan Day, especially, and a little bit from Chip Kelly, really talked about not directly, but they kind of hinted at the fact that Will Howard and his experience has really shown through.
Well, again,
And
I
they haven't
think that
said
they've
that
seen
about
that.
Devin.
No, but I don't think they got any of that from the spring game either, because I didn't
No, I'm
necessarily
talking
see that
about
in the spring
spring
game.
entirely. Yeah.
Oh, spring entirely, of
Yeah.
course, and they're sitting there evaluating it. And I mean, it's a science now, and they're evaluating everything. But the spring game, if I was just an evaluator looking in, I didn't see necessarily the experience from Howard and
Mhm.
and the juice in front of a cloud, in front of that crowd, and how it's going to
Mhm.
be. I
Right.
I think Howard always had the inside track to the starting job.
Yeah.
Based on the spring game, and again, I'm not in practice. I don't think he widened that at all. I don't think he's like, okay, it's
Mhm.
trending well. I feel like Devin Brown, if anything, closed that gap a little bit. Still think he's behind, but I feel it's open competition.
Okay. So you don't feel comfortable naming a starter right now today
I
after
do not. No.
what little we've heard and seen. Okay.
Yeah, not at all. I don't.
All right. All right. I'm going with Will Howard, not because of just the experience, but um, I just haven't seen enough from Devin. Will Howard's got 20 games of experience. Devin still kind of showed those happy feet and the willingness to take off, maybe a little too early, maybe not getting through all your progressions when you need to. So I'm leaning Will Howard right now, and I'm sure they're going to take this into the fall camp.
The stuff I'm talking about isn't even with what I saw with Will Howard on the field, which was mediocre and okay. It was more when I saw him walking over to the sideline and the way he carries himself, and I think Will Howard, to lock it up, and I think he could, needs to get out of his own head a little bit, like
Hmm.
maybe overthinking it and whatever.
Okay, interesting. All right. So let's go to center between McLaughlin and Hinsman. I don't see any, well, backing up, I don't see any issues at left tackle or left guard, right? At least as a starter goes. I mean,
Well,
we
I
can
mean,
debate the
left
depth.
tackle, I feel like I know who it is, but I can't say that I'm 100% confident that he's the right guy. But I also don't think there's anybody else that we can put in there. So, I mean,
Right.
it's kind of a loaded question. Do
Okay.
I think I know who the left tackle and guard are? Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Um, am I happy with it? I mean, I guess it's probably as happy as I can be with who's on the roster, but I,
Right.
I need serious, better play out of both of you, frankly.
Well, let's compare the left to the right then. How do you feel about the right side compared to the left? Because that's
The
where
the
I
the
have my
the
qualms.
right side to me, and I feel like that they've kind of got their guys that they like, and again, we're not there and can't see, but to me, going in, it's like, okay, these guys were the left last year, so they're probably going to be the left this year. I feel the right ought to be like wide open,
Hmm.
but
It
I feel
should
like
be. Yeah.
I feel like they know who they got over there too. Um,
They have options, I guess. It's just a matter of who's going to be picked. Um, so left side, Simmons at left tackle obviously is your starter.
right.
Guard, you got Donovan Jackson, of course, no questions
Yeah,
there. Then at center, I think McLaughlin's going to be your starter. The
I
fine
would agree.
Irishman. Hinsman, still, I have a tough time coming back from last year's Hinsman, right? Like accepting him as an option at right guard really does not make sense to me. But hey, we're not in every practice. So
You're
at
not
right
people, and
guard,
people grow up and learn and
yeah. But
whatever.
he admitted in interviews this spring that he was not ready physically or mentally last year. Like
Then to me,
that's a big
that's on
deal.
Fry. Hey, Fry, guess what? We pay you fucking $1 million to figure out
Well,
if the guy's ready. And if he's
I
not,
think it was
then that's your fucking job.
a
Sorry for my
year ago. I
French.
think it was a lack of options. Who else was there? Right. I mean, you had
Well,
Vic
then
Cutler.
that's a different disgrace. It's still a disgrace, but a different one. I will give you that.
Yeah, Vic Cutler. He didn't play at all. So that tells you they went into the portal, got this dude from UL Monroe, wasn't worth a shit, never got on the field, transferred out again because
Then maybe I'll put it back on Ryan Day. So why are you having a mid dude with all these pass plays with a quarterback that looks to look down at his feet and goes to option one, Marvin Harrison Jr. on every freaking pass play? And
yeah, yeah,
look,
you
look,
can
look, you always have weak spots on every team. And you know what good coaches
sure,
do? They design a game plan around it and they protect their weak spots.
right. I would assume that they probably had the guards helping out with protection occasionally and running back with blitzes, of course, in pass pro. But again, Hinsman, just his grades alone were horrific. And so when we're talking about right guard this year, and it's a battle between Hinsman, Luke Montgomery, and Tiger Shabola, I'm like, I throw my hands up. I don't know what the fuck to think, man, because I thought Luke Montgomery would be perfect in that role before he moves out to tackle next year. But Tagra's always been, in my opinion, a guard, not a tackle. But they tried to kind of fit him into a tackle role in front. So I don't know, man. I know from what happened, I am out on. Please, I don't want me Luke Montgomery and Tiger Shabola. Give me that because best man wins, and I feel really good about our chances going forward. You know, so that's a lot of offensive line talk. I'm offended. I should prepare you, Shawn, as we continue. I put a question out to the chat over under for Georgia this year is 10.5 wins. We're going to get to everybody's comments on that one. But Shawn, I want to prepare you. We're going to go through their schedule here before we get into our draft.
Well, here, you want me to let me throw in a little curveball for the listening audience. So I'm just leaving a bar, had a couple beers with a Michigan fan, and then we chat up another guy that's I don't know, kind of on the fence, reasonable guy. And so we started talking about blue bloods, and he's talking about, when you're talking about blue bloods of college football, he's like, I basically think, it's got to be Georgia, Alabama, Michigan. And I'm like, you're out of your fucking mind. I'm
okay,
like, and I know they've beaten us and they're reigning national champions. And I tried to pull up 247. I'm like, no one wants to go there. I'm like, you guys are to more meet. You're a TCU. You had a great team and a great little run, but your shit's not sustainable. It's just not at this point. And he's like,
right.
oh, it's because you're a Buckeye and you're a homer and you won't fucking acknowledge. I'm like, look, I want Michigan to be a blue blood. It's good for college football. It's good for Ohio State, frankly. But they're not. I mean, the way they recruit, the kids that go there, they had a nice run again with a very old team, which is always how Michigan State would compete.
Right.
Michigan State would compete with us every 3 years because they had a bunch of upperclassmen,
returning seniors,
few good recruits, and you have to have really good, at least solid to really good quarterback play. And Michigan had that. And again, but I don't think what they have is sustainable. And then we start getting into the debate of, I was like, to me right now, college blue bloods, and again, I know I'm biased. To me, it's Georgia, Ohio State. And then we can start. I would have said Alabama, but with Saban gone, that's up for grabs to me.
That resets the table, I think.
Yeah. Right now I got Georgia, Ohio State. And then, there's a group of teams that are going to be good and come on and whatnot. And I think if you're going to rank the top 8 programs in the country, Michigan does fit in probably to the top 8, but they don't fit into the top 3, 4, in my opinion, for consistency, even though they're returning national champions. So I'd love to hear what the chat and the listeners have to say about that, because I got a little heated.
Okay.
As
all right, nice.
Ought to do.
I wish I was there. So let's visit that. Let's talk about Georgia's schedule here. We'll come back to our draft. But so looking at Georgia's schedule, so this is an early start to the college football season, which I love. You can't start it too soon, in my opinion. Right out the gates, Georgia has Clemson August 31st. I think Georgia wins that, but let me see if I can pull up a spread on that game. They do have some spreads out already.
I'll bet that's a touchdown plus. Clemson,
two, buddy. 12 and a half. 12 and a half.
That must be at, okay, 12 and a half. I thought you meant 2 points.
I believe it's a neutral site. Yeah, it's in Atlanta.
So people that were saying, and that was part of my argument, I'm like, look, you just did a Clemson thing and you got really good for like 3 years and made the playoffs and you won one, which is really hard to do. And I give you credit for it, but it's not sustainable. And to me, Clemson 5 years ago was a blue blood. They were a serious team every year, boom, boom, boom. And now they're not.
Right. And that's the key. I think Clemson gets rolled here, but let's continue with Georgia's schedule here as we're trying to figure out over under 10 and a half. I think we give everybody gives Georgia a win there, right? With a 12 and a half point spread. I think you have to. Then they follow that up with Tennessee Tech. Yeah. Anyway, so 2-0, then at Kentucky, 3-0, right? Then at Bama, that could go either way. That'll be we'll call it a coin flip. It'll be a probably 3 or 4 point game, the spread anyways, right?
What was the spread?
No, oh, let me see if I can find that. Ooh, I got 5.5 right now. So a touchdown almost on that one.
Where at?
In Bama, Georgia is the road favorite by 5.5. I think Georgia wins that. So I think they go 4-0 there.
Yeah, Bama's gonna need to reinvent themselves, and they're capable of it, but they're gonna need to do it, and it isn't gonna be easy in today's NIL. They're gonna need to get the money out, and I like their coach hire. We'll see what they do with personnel.
Yeah, I think personnel is the problem. I'm not sure Jalen Milroe works in that offense. So we'll see. So, anyways, I got Georgia at 4-0. Then Auburn comes to town. That's a win for Georgia. Mississippi State, that's a win. Now, this is where shit gets real. October 19th, the Bulldogs go to Texas.
Ooh,
Texas.
that's juicy.
Yeah, she said. I don't know where to go there. It really depends on how good is this Georgia defense, because I could see Texas putting up some points if that defense is a little depleted, bombed out and depleted, right?
I haven't paid attention to their classes, who left or who's leaving, whatever, but I'm going to err on the side of it's going to be solid. I mean, to me, that's going to Texas is probably going to air it out. They got some weapons and quarterbacks, and how's Georgia's secondary? I guess is what we need to know on that, in my opinion.
Right. Yeah. Let's call that a coin flip game. We'll give that a half. How about that? We'll go Georgia 2, 4, 6, 6.5 wins so far. Then you got Florida coming. Oh, that's the cocktail party in Jacksonville, Florida and Georgia. Florida's going to get crushed. So that's 7.5. Georgia at
I don't know. That may be Florida's Super Bowl, because Florida's got the toughest schedule in the country as far as I've looked at. And
I think they're going to be beat down mentally by then.
I think so too, but it's like, okay, guys, we need to win one game. Let's make it this game.
Right.
I don't know. They're going to get everything Florida's got, which might not be much at that point.
That's early November, man. I don't know if Billy Napier's got much to work with at that point, but so I'm going 7.5 wins for Georgia. Then Georgia goes to Ole Miss early November. That's a tough one. Let me see if I got a spread on that one yet. Yeah, I do. Georgia favored by 3.5 at Ole Miss. Again, road favorites. That's interesting. Going against Lane. Lane's loaded up on the transfer portal. They let Quinshawn go, come to Columbus, but they also brought in a bunch of dudes. Still got a good quarterback. I'm not sure he's the answer, but I got to go with Georgia in a nail biter. I mean, we could make this another coin flipper, call it.
Yeah, I would say between those, you're gonna have.
Let's go half.
I mean, it's big time football, and shit happens, right?
So let's go with half. That's 8, and even 8 right there. Then Tennessee comes to town against Georgia. This is not the same Tennessee team that took everybody by storm and were throwing goalposts into the river. I think Georgia wins this one at home easily. So that's 9. UMass comes to Georgia. UMass.
Oh, I got them at UMass.
That's a good call right there.
What are they? The Patriots, the Journeymen, the Minutemen?
Something like that. Yeah. The Benjamin Franklins, something like that. Right. So that's a win. Then Georgia Tech to finish up the season. Yeah. I got them over 10.5.
I feel like so there's 12 games. I mean, 10 and a half is the right number. I feel like you got to give they're going to lose. It's so hard to go undefeated. They're going to lose one and probably to either
Right.
Texas or like you said,
Texas, yeah.
at Ole Miss. And then do you have a hiccup at Auburn or Bama? I mean, it's
A game you shouldn't lose.
still SEC football, right? I mean,
Right. They don't typically lose games they should not lose, though.
they haven't recently, and I think their quarterback's solid as shit.
Yeah. He's a returning starter. Yeah, I got Georgia over, for our question to the chat. So let's pop in the chat and let's come back to our draft here in a minute. Got some good activity here. All fired up. Ooh, Juck on Bucks. What's up, Juck? What's up with you? I gotta pop into your live chat sometime, Juck, because I've been watching your shows. Billy said, Odysseus says OH with a bunch of nuts. IO to you, Odysseus. Billy says, hey, Joe, Juck, Shawn, Odysseus. Yeah, that's right. Tyler, Juck says, my guys. Tyler says OH with a bunch of nuts. Billy, hey, Tyler, Juck, what's up? What's up? Bunch of what's ups. Juck says Iowa over 7.5 wins. That's an interesting one. I kind of feel like we should investigate that, Shawn. What do you think? Let's look at this Iowa schedule. All right. Oh boy. Let's see if we agree with Juck here. They start off with Illinois State. That seems like a win. All these are going to be very close wins, right? These are not going to be blowouts. So week 2, they got the rivalry game. Iowa State. Yep. In Iowa City. I don't know where to go there. I don't know what Iowa State has. Then you got Troy. So let's give that a half win. That's a coin flip game in week 2. Then you got Troy come to Iowa. So that's 2.5 wins. Then Iowa goes to Minnesota. That's another coin flip. So that's a half. Let's go 3. Then Iowa comes to Columbus to get their ass smoked. That's 1, 2. What are they? 3-1. Washington comes to town. That's 3-2. Sorry, 2 losses. Then they go to Michigan State. I don't know what's going on in Michigan State. Shawn, what's going on with Michigan State up there? What's the latest?
I would say not much. That I know
That
of.
sounds bad.
Yeah, I don't think it's good. I think they'll be back to, they'll compete against the lower teams. If Iowa's any good, I mean that might be a slugfest right there. That could be a 10-9 ball game right there.
Right. So Shawn's in Detroit, by the way, and he's got a little insight into the Michigan State program. So my question for you, Shawn, about Sparty is, did they nuke the entire program with the firing of Mel Tugger, or did they kind of hold some pieces over? Like, what's the status? What's the status? I never said that word before. What's the status?
I'm not 100% on who was all nuked, who wasn't. I think a big portion of the staff, which again to me were charlatans, way above their pay grade, to coach Big Ten college football. I think a lot of them are gone, and this new guy's bringing in his own dudes. And I think it was a good hire for him. But again, we're talking personnel, and they don't have any dudes.
I know he is. Jonathan Smith is bringing the quarterback, right?
Yes, he
Chenille?
is.
Is
Yes,
that his
he is.
name?
And I also heard that it's a kid that we played against. They were
Right.
able to hold on to that Marshall kid out of I think it was River Rouge, and I mean he made our kids look ridiculous. And I heard he had a 75-yard touchdown in their spring game. And that kid, again, for all the high school kids that I've seen some pretty good high school football. That's probably the kid that like popped
Right.
off the field to me more than any kid that I've watched is that
Okay.
Marshall, that wide receiver. Um,
Okay.
he's got serious
Uh,
skills.
Aiden Childs. That's the quarterback. I was way off. No offense.
And they
So,
brought him,
yeah,
coach brought him from Washington State, right?
Oregon State. Yeah.
Oregon State, my bad.
Right.
Um, that's going to be probably a huge thing because I don't think that their quarterback room is, or most of their rooms were all that good. But again, I think he just got a, a serious true freshman wide receiver that I'll bet you sees considerable snaps as a freshman at Michigan State this
Mhm.
year.
Right. So it looks like Sparty wants to start recruiting in Ohio again. Good luck with that. Uh, you're not a Mark D'Antonio, by the way, who
No,
could
but I
do
mean,
that.
but year in year out, I mean, you look at Michigan State. I mean, a lot of their kids are from Ohio, and it's kind of always been that way. Frankly, it's just you're
Yeah.
not getting the creme de la creme out of Ohio. But kind of the joke up here with a lot of Sparty friends is like an Ohio 3-star is like a Michigan 4-star. It's like kids in Ohio play
Sure.
football, and
Right.
so Sparty and as well as you know, the rest of the Big Ten love Ohio kids, right? I mean,
Yeah. And
you
they
look at
like to,
Indiana's, any of these programs, they're littered with kids from Ohio.
and then they use the motivational factor of Ohio State didn't want you, so
Right?
when you play them head to head, it's like their Super Bowl. I get it. Nick Marsh is the receiver you're talking about, right?
Yes. Yes, it
6'3",
is.
208, early enrollee from River Rouge. 88 yards and on 2 catches in the spring game. Okay. So I'm seeing something here. Defense is always going to be an issue. Who's Joe Rossi? Is that Janice's brother?
I don't know. What
Uh,
position's he? Is he a I don't even know what
he's
position.
a DC, I think.
Oh, yeah, I don't know. I mean,
And
I don't think expectations are high this year. Um, so if Sparty can get to if Sparty can be 500 to me, I think that's a win.
okay. So not super high expectations.
No.
Okay. All right. So they're
But
not
I
starting from
think with
ground
the
zero.
depleted Michigan game, if they can make their Super Bowl,
Mm-hmm.
their arch rival in Michigan, who I don't who I also think has a lot of holes in their game, that could be a winnable game. But yeah, they're gonna lose some games to Iowa and Maryland and whomever. They're gonna lose some of those games.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So yeah, let's get back here to the Iowa schedule. I think we stopped midstream there. I had one, 1.5, 2.5, three, 3-1, 3-2. Michigan State, let's call that a coin flip as well. So yeah, let's go 3.5 there. Northwestern,
Who's their quarterback? Keinholz? Who's Iowa's quarterback?
what?
Who's
Shut up.
Iowa's quarterback?
Oh, it's that fat bastard or Cade McNamara. I think Cade McNamara is probably the guy.
Still?
Yeah. Injuries, man. So I think I got Iowa at 1.5, 2.5. 3, 3, 3, 3.5. Let's give them Northwestern. So that's 4. Wisconsin at Iowa, I think that's a loss. So still 4 wins is what I have. Iowa at UCLA. I think that's a loss. So I still got 4. We'll give them 4.5. How about that? 4.5.
No, I don't fuck with Iowa because Iowa will play all those teams and no one will score over 12 points on them, and they'll end up 10-2.
No. Then they got at Maryland. That's a coin flip. Every game is at least a coin flip, if not a loss for Iowa. So yeah, I got the under. I got the under at fucking 7.5. Fuck that. Yeah. Let's get back to the chat here. We got to keep this train rolling. So Juck, yeah, I'm going under. Tyler says LSU. Okay. Odysseus says over for Georgia. All right. Juck says let's do it. All right. So I posted the over under for Georgia, 10.5. Billy says under for Iowa. I'm with you, Billy. We've always been in the same plane. Tyler says over for Iowa, though. Or is that over for Georgia? I think he means over for Georgia. Juck says, look at the schedule, David, so soft. Steven says, what up, Joe? Do you think we'll ever fall in love with an offensive line recruiting the same way we love WRs? No, you will not, Steven, because offensive linemen do not promote all of their visits. They do not do you can't do the photo sessions anymore. That's been taken away by the NCAA. So nobody's doing the photo opportunities on a visit. But I'll say you will never fall in love with O-line like you do wide receivers.
Speak for yourself. I do. I love them.
Okay, Shawn.
I'm here for the O-linemen. That's how you maintain the blue blood.
They do not garner the attention. They don't want the attention that the corners, the safeties.
Yeah, but
right. That's their nature.
That makes me fall out in love with half these guys that run their mouths. I'm like, just shut the fuck up and do your thing. Give me a quiet O-lineman.
Right. Well, I think Steven's talking about the fan base in general.
Because football in general. I mean, O-line, of course, it's the most important thing and the least accredited thing. But Nick Saban and Urban Meyer know that you win college championships on the O-line and D-line of college football. Period.
Yeah, I can't argue that how important they are. I think Steven is talking about how much love positions get, across like whether it's social media or whatever, the wide receivers versus the O-line. This is what he's talking about. Wide receivers versus O-line.
Well, you're talking about the kids. I'm talking about people that are serious about football, our audience. And I think if you pulled this audience, I'd much rather have the number 1 O-tackle out of Texas than the number 2 wide receiver out of Texas, even the number 1 wide receiver out of Texas, unless he's a freak like Smith. O-lineman.
Okay. Well, I think Steven's question was not saying he's in favor of wide receivers instead of O-lineman. I think he's saying that it's more a broad generalization about broads and across the fan base.
Well, I mean, it's just a different mentality, I think. No, I mean, I'll agree with you on that you can't, because O-linemen aren't out there like talking, I'm the fucking shit, and I'm not saying that Jeremiah Smith or some of these guys do, but yeah, they're just like, no, look. But those are always the tough guys. The guys that run their mouth aren't the tough guys. The O-linemen, I don't want them out there like, yeah, I'm this, I'm all that. Because the quiet big dude is the guy you don't want to mess with. And I don't know. Anytime we miss out on a big time O-lineman, it really I feel like that affects me more. When I miss out on a big time wide receiver recruit, and then maybe it's because we have so many of them, that don't affect me as much. But when we miss the big O-line, D-line guys, I'm like, because to me, those can be cornerstones of a team for a couple years.
Okay. Yeah. I think I get Steven's point, but
I do as well. No, I do as well. And just a lot of nuance with it.
It's a fair point. Yeah. So Billy says they have no QB. I think he's talking about Iowa. Juck says, me and you are betting something on this one. All right. All right. Let's put something on the table. Billy says under on the UGA win total. Okay. Under 10.5. I like it. I really want to know where there's loss, where they're going to lose, because we'll see. If their defense is up to snuff, like we've seen recently, I don't know who they lose to, man. But Odysseus says, now watch the cheaters' defense suddenly look human with helmet comms in play. There you go, Odysseus. That's right. Nobody's whispering into fucking Mike Minner's ear anymore, is there a little stallions next to him? Nope. So, yeah, I agree with you there. Tyler says this is a massive deal. The kids are employees. I agree, Tyler. That's why I brought it up briefly. I tried to keep it short on the NIL stuff, but it's changing. It's going to change fast. This time next year, I think we could be looking at a very new system, but it doesn't matter. As long as they're still playing football in the same stadiums, I'm good. Let's see. Billy says, even if the kids are employees, they can still take outside NIL money. Yes. And also, even if the NIL collectives are brought inside the athletic departments, they can still get paid extra there. It's just like the NFL. Some guys do Nike ads outside of their team. Some guys do Gatorade or whatever. It doesn't matter. So it's the same deal. It would be the exact same thing. And I don't think it really matters who's arranging the fucking deals. The kid better have some fucking agents and some representation. Otherwise, he's going to get taken and screwed over. Juck says, yeah, we don't ever hear about ineligible kids for grades anymore. Exactly. Or anything else for that matter. Odysseus says, not all Michigan, not in Michigan, grades don't matter there. Desmond and Luan are proof that, yeah, that's a good point. I'm sure there's many more people. I'm not sure Woodson was the best student either. He used to come to our town. He used to come to Tiffin. Jeff played against him. My brother played against him in high school. We played against his older brother, his half brother, Terry Carter, right, Shawn?
I mean, I don't want to throw shade at anybody's students or whatever, because we got guys that aren't studying either. I mean,
this is strictly about Michigan. Odysseus is talking about Desmond Howard and Taylor Lewan. So I think Woodson probably skated by.
Right? I have no idea. I have no idea. I don't know. I wouldn't necessarily I wouldn't agree with that, because of all the Michigan people that I hear talk, I feel like Woodson probably is more intellectual, like thinking like. I don't get a dumb vibe from him. Now, Desmond Howard, okay, maybe he skated by a little bit, but I feel like Woodson does a lot more intellectual and capable of rational thought than Desmond Howard.
Okay.
But again, throwing stones. I mean, it's other than Michigan's always like, well, no, we couldn't get that NIL deal because his credits didn't transfer. Like these big time fucking quarterbacks and shit worried about fucking credit.
You're right.
I mean,
That's
it's just
never been an
hilarious
issue.
how Michigan's like, well, no, we're very strict on our No, you're not,
Mm,
Michigan. You're not stricter than anybody else. There's rules in play,
yeah,
and you push them to the max that you can, just like everyone else does. It's
right,
just, but they have their fan base and their whatever thinking that, oh no, we maintain a higher standard here. No, you don't. I
right.
mean, at all, they don't. I mean, it's not even a little bit. It's the same.
Mm. Well, I'm just all right. Let's settle on this middle ground. Um, Charles Woodson's a sellout. How's that sound?
Okay, I can live with that.
All right, there we go. Win-win. So yeah, continuing in the chat here. Um, oh, Juck is laughing. Tyler's laughing his ass off. Uh, Billy says how Desmond Howard is employed as a football analyst is one of the world's greatest mysteries. Yes, that's a good point. And yet they continue to keep him on camera. Barely the intelligence of an intern is how I would put Desmond. But Steven says if it's a close race, you go with the guy who you just paid to come here. Howard is QB1. Okay. So dollars and cents there from Steven. Tyler says both Taylor Lewan and Desmond Howard belong in the circus. That'd be funny. I would go to that circus. Juck says, forget taking Dev. What? Odysseus says, McLaughlin is starting. I agree there. Juck says, how is Will Howard in his head? I did not get that impression at all. I don't know. Did you say it, Shawn? Will Howard was in his own head?
Yeah. No, I said Howard's in his own head a little bit.
Yeah.
And I think just kind of learning what it's like. McLaughlin or Howard, but yeah, I said Howard's in his own head. But did someone agree or disagree?
Juck asked, how was Will Howard in his head? He did not get that impression.
To me, I don't know. I look at things and I will admit that I've been wrong at times. But when I look at someone's composure and the way that they're even walking off the sideline and taking their helmet off and expressions on people's faces and that stuff, and again, that's more what I'm talking about. Where I think he's going to need to do so much more to grab a hold of this team. Devin Brown's been in here, knows all these guys intimately. You got to come in here and now be the leader, and the way that he's doing it again. I just think, and the moment's so big with all those fans is Devin Brown's ahead of him in that category, and he's got. I'm not saying he can't do it, and I still think
you're talking more of a leadership standpoint.
A leadership and not. Yes.
Okay. All right. Okay.
I can go into a little more nuance than that, but yeah.
I get you. Juck says left is solid. Talking whole line here. Odysseus says right side needs to improve pass pro. Definitely, for sure. Billy says, I think once the bullets start flying, Howard will shine. Yeah, I have a couple shows coming up this week on the Daily Blitz where I talk about one, how Will Howard has separated himself from the other quarterbacks. And then later on this week, I'm going to get into the run game and how quarterbacks are involved there. So keep an eye out for those. Those are important. Juck says Hinsman looks great. 20 pounds more of solid mass. I don't know, man. He didn't look so great in the spring game. Got put on his ass. I'm gonna need a real battle at that right guard position. McLaughlin's obviously the true center. 25 starts in the SEC at Bama. I think that warrants it, and he hasn't had any major snapping issues in spring ball. So if that's true,
but I'm pretty sure that he didn't start 25 games at Alabama with major snapping issues either. It's something, but that game, I've never seen a worse game by a center in my entire life than the one
Michigan
time that
game,
I watched McLaughlin. Yeah. ever
Right.
from anyone ever. I've never seen a worse game.
Yep.
That scares
I
me.
understand. That was one game though out of 25.
Well, that's the only one I really fucking paid attention to, or at least that I noticed. I don't want to notice the center, right?
Sure. But yeah, that's the rule of thumb. I agree. But I'm not worried about it. I'm still I got a Hinsman issue. And to Juck's comment there, I don't care how many more pounds of solid mass he has. He's still getting blown up in a fucking spring game, man. Come on. If he's the best right guard we have, fine. I'll accept it. I'm not sure he is, though. I'm honestly not sure.
Well, I mean, what makes our listeners think that you gave me those numbers that I don't even fully understand half the time, Joe, but the numbers that Donovan Jackson and Simmons put up last year aren't acceptable either. I mean, we're all confident
the PFF grades? Yeah.
Yeah, we're all confident that these guys are going to really shore that up. I mean, I'm hopeful as well. And Jackson was better as the year before.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it's one tool for grading O linemen. We don't have many tools to work with,
I'm just kind of backing up. I mean, not the Hinsman thing. You guys all got a giant hatred or hard on for him, but guess what?
Just me.
Simmons and Donovan weren't very good last year either.
No, I'm not letting anybody out of the bag. We're talking about one position here. We're talking about right guard in this particular comment. That's what we're talking about. Juck brought up
we're talking about practice?
Hinsman.
What
yeah.
Talking about
Spring practice. Not the games. But anyways, moving on. Odysseus says, I think Vic Cutler being a bust hurt the center position last year. Yes, it sure did, Odysseus. We thought we had an option there. Instead, we have to go with a fucking freshman. Tyler says, here's my thoughts on the offensive line. We're going to be a 50-50 running team and passing game, utilizing play action to help the offensive line. Yes, I agree with you, Tyler. That is all true. And as I will talk about in the Daily Blitz coming up this week, the read options, the RPOs are going to be a bigger part of the offense this year. So keep that in mind, because that involves the quarterback making the right decisions after the snap. These are not pre-snap reads. Post-snap, when you're reading the give to a running back or a pass over the top, you've got to make those snap decisions immediately, and that's where Will Howard, I feel, is going to be the strongest quarterback.
Why?
But
why do you think that?
Because his experience, strictly experience.
Has he done well at that?
Yeah, and he showed it in the spring game as well. Besides just his pocket presence and stuff, but I don't want to give away all of tomorrow's quarterback show on the Daily Blitz. You have to tune in for that. But I do agree, Tyler, you're right. 50-50 run pass, but there's going to be a very different run game element. It's not going to be the same that we've seen. Juck says they seem to like Luke at right guard, then change their mind the final week of spring. I agree with you, Juck. I saw the same thing. Seemed like Luke was the, I don't know, penciled in starter, penciled in number one there, got all the reps. Then they started circling in Tagra, and then Hinsman late. It's like, what the fuck are we doing? Do we need a 3-man rotation there at right guard?
Well, again, it's we don't know what we don't know. Where someone, tweaked their knee the other day at practice, and all right, this guy's taking all the reps now, and I mean,
right. Sure, I can't argue there. Yeah, I agree. It goes week to week, but it is weird that they went with what seems to be a 3-man rotation at that position. And it's going to go into fall camp. Obviously, nothing is being decided between here and the end of July. So we'll see what happens. Juck has a great point on the blue bloods comment, Shawn, that you made. He says, this isn't a debate. 8 traditional blue bloods. I would argue some of these. Notre Dame.
I Googled it at the bar too. I Googled that at the bar too, and I already know the teams you're going to fucking tell me.
Tell me then.
Okay. You're going to have in the 8 traditional blue bloods, you're going to have Notre Dame, you're going to have Michigan, you're going to have probably Nebraska, you're going to have Alabama, you're going to have Ohio State. They put in USC, Oklahoma. They put in disgraceful, and Texas. Those are the 8. Those are the fucking 8.
Right.
Did I get any wrong?
I think you got them.
Yeah, I Googled it too at the bar. And is Nebraska a blue blood? Are we still going with that?
Not anymore.
Again, I think tradition and brand and some of this stuff on some of these teams. But Clemson, to me, I mean, again, it's how we're defining this blue blood, because I think for about a 5-6 year span, I would consider Clemson a blue blood. And then to me, blue blood's not like, hey, the history, 100 years, all these championships, blah, 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 the whatever behind the programs. It's like, who has something in place right now in their program that is sustainable and is going to continue to be top notch every year? To me, Michigan is kind of finding its water. They are a huge brand, obviously. But what they've done, what they've built, to me, isn't sustainable, at least in the old college football structure. They caught fire, did some impressive things, but you look at their recruiting classes, even after the last couple of years, and even going in forward, they're not good. I mean, they're not good at all, and it's bewildering to me that they're not getting that type of talent. And they're like, well, we didn't have the best recruits when we did do all this. I'm like, yeah, but you had a bunch of 6-year seniors. You got a couple key NIL guys. Your O-line was ridiculous. And to me, again, I think JJ's a different dude, and he had good running back play, but he had some good D. But again, they're going to 18 dudes left that program. Michigan is not built to replace that many dudes. And I don't think many schools are. I think Ohio State's one of them. I mean, even that many would be tough if you're replacing basically your whole O-line. That's tough for anyone. But I don't see Ohio State winning a national championship and then going. I think Michigan's 8-4 this year. I just do.
Yeah.
And maybe they'll prove me wrong, but maybe they'll be 10-2.
We talked about it on Friday's show. On Friday's live show, we talked about it. The over-under is 9.5 for Michigan this year, team wins. And
I like the under.
I think everybody was under. The majority was all under. And I think everybody was easily giving them 8-4. That's being generous to them. But going back to the blue bloods comment, I don't agree with those 8 blue bloods. No.
To me, I mean, I look at an echelon of college football.
And where's Penn State? Why is Penn State not there? If fucking Texas and USC are there, what's wrong with Penn State? They win 10 games a year.
I mean, if Nebraska's in there, why can't Florida be in there? Or Miami?
Yeah. Those teams are like from the fucking 90s, man. Yeah, I don't agree with that at all.
And to me, right now, there's the upper echelon. And I think right now, Ohio State and Georgia are just a bit above. They're 1A, 1B, whatever. And then I think there are, 6, 7 teams that are serious, legit contenders.
Yeah.
On a year in, year out basis, but they can fall out of it real quick.
Oh, yeah. But yeah, it depends on how long, what kind of time frame are you looking at? Are you looking at last 20 years, last 50 years? Those are very different. That's where
Michigan fans either look at it as the last 3 years
Yeah.
or since since football
Right.
started being played,
Right.
when they were playing
Yeah.
the dentist club.
Right. If you don't define the terms, then you can use whatever time period you want, right? They dominated Ohio State back in the early 1900s.
But since the forward pass, I think we're pretty good.
Yeah, I think we're good there. Let's see. Billy says no Georgia. Um, yeah, that's an excellent point, Billy. Georgia not in that 8 blue bloods category, which
Yeah,
I would consider them that now in the last 20 years, but
again,
not in
and
the last
that's more
50.
of a historical. That blue blood
Yeah,
thing's more historical. Some have stayed on there, like
yeah,
Ohio
yeah.
State, Bama. Bama's obviously a fucking blue blood. Bama, we'll see what they do. They might get kicked out
Mhm.
of that top category. Ole Miss is coming on. You know, at some point, you think Florida will have a resurgence and have some good years. Does Tennessee ever do anything again?
What about the
Texas coming
Canes?
in here.
We got Stephen Cherry says he asks if Miami is a blue blood. They were back in the 1990s.
Early 2000s, yeah, they were.
Fuck yeah. But since
Florida,
then,
Florida
not so
State,
much.
Florida State.
Sure. Yeah. But not so much in the last 20 years.
And to me, what really pissed my Michigan buddy off was I said, look, you guys put together a nice team. I said, you got an unsustainable thing. Everybody left. I'm like, hey, you're a really good school. It's hard to get into Michigan. Good job on
Mhm.
that. You guys are Stanford.
It's true.
Stanford puts out a really nice product every here and there. That's what
Yeah.
I think Michigan's.
They'll go on a little run, but they won't ever again because they're trying to support 36 fucking sports in their college. And Ohio State's going to learn that they can't support 36 sports financially, but we'll see what happens there. Juck says Georgia is like the 12th best program. I don't know about that. Again, where's your time frame? Tyler
Well,
says
I think he's
Miami
talking about right now over the last 3-4 years. Georgia's the standard.
recency, yeah. Uh, Tyler says Miami's a blue blood program as well. Okay, so again, what time periods are we looking at? So this is all, opinion based and focused on what time periods. So,
To me,
anyways,
I'm talking about programs that have kind of done it and sustain it, and year
yeah,
in year out. Every year Alabama was in the national championship discussion. I would say LSU for a 5-6 year run there was in that conversation. Georgia's been in there. Clemson was in there. Going forward, does anybody think that Michigan's going to win a natty? I mean, Michigan's going to be fighting to get in the 12-person tournament. It's going to be close.
right. I agree. Yeah. And continuing on that thought, Steven says, are we basing blue bloods off wins, longevity, or natties? Those are all exactly what I'm asking. What's a blue blood? Let's define that first before we start painting
I mean,
schools into
the
that.
traditional thing of it, I would give Michigan as a blue blood, just like I'd
Yeah,
give
yeah.
Nebraska and
But I
Texas
think like
and a lot
you
of
got to put
teams.
Penn State in there. They were
Yeah, Notre
monsters in the
Dame.
80s and 90s.
No,
Notre
you got to
Dame,
put Penn
sure.
State, Notre Dame,
Yeah.
Oklahoma,
I think you're
Texas.
ignoring a lot of schools that are good quality back in the 70s, 80s, and 90s. If you're just going to say all of a sudden, that Nebraska still is. Okay. They were, yes, in the 90s, haven't been for 25, 30 years. So, anyways, continuing on through the chat as we wind it down here. Looks like most people have bailed. Odysseus says Georgia will run all over Bama's tissue defense now that DeBoer is coach. I think you might have something there. They definitely lost one of their best players on defense to the Buckeyes, right? Caleb Downs.
Certainly.
Billy says between Bama, Ole Miss, and Texas, I'm hoping Georgia gets 2 losses. That's realistic.
It is.
Yeah, I can't rule that out. So that puts them at under the 10.5. If they take 2 losses there. I feel like they win one of those or two of
Like I said,
those.
I think that quarterback stud that they got, he's not going to lose you any games. I don't think if their defense is solid and up to Georgia standard, I'll take the over.
Billy says that Ewers is not an elite quarterback. Yeah, I'd be concerned if I were Quinn Ewers because Arch Manning looked pretty good in that spring game for what that's worth. Threw for like 350 and a few touchdowns. Billy says the Fighting Don Brown's taking Georgia down. I think Don Brown coaches UMass. I think he's their head coach. Tyler says I meant over under for LSU. Okay. Let's talk over under for LSU since looks like everybody's taken off. The chat's gotten super quiet. Where's my bet slip? Did not do great in the golf this week. I thought I was going to do a little better. Bounce back in the Masters, but anyways, looking at how we graded out. All right. Guess I haven't really gotten any bets paid out yet. Team wins. So I talk about things that are going through my brain. LSU 9.5. Over under 9.5 for LSU. Let's look at their schedule here.
After losing the Heisman and the top 10 wide receiver pick.
I still don't understand how they won that fucking Heisman, man. I'm still shaking my head. SMHing. Okay, so week 1, they start off right out of the gates at USC. How's that sound?
I think that sounds good for LSU.
Does it? Okay. Have you not seen your Miller Moss?
I have not.
Sounds like something you get on your genitalia. Anyways, so we'll call that a coin flip. So then you got Nicholls State come to town. You know, you got to always balance that SEC schedule and that non-con schedule with community college. So let's go 1.5 wins. Then they go to visit the Cox. If they didn't get enough cock out in LA week 1, they go to South Carolina week 3. That's a coin flip.
Are they projected to be a coin flip? Why? Cocks are like expected to be decent.
It's good cock, Shawn. 5.5.
I'm not into
Their
it.
over under is 5.5. So all right, we'll give LSU that.
LSU win.
All right, let's give them 2.5. Then UCLA comes to town. What did LSU join the Big Ten here? Why are they playing USC and UCLA in the same?
That's another win.
Yeah, for sure. So that's 1, 2, 3.5.
3.5.
South Alabama comes to town. That's a win. 4.5. Ole Miss comes to the Baton Rouge. Now, I don't know about you, but I'm leaning Ole Miss there.
You've always been a big Lane Kiffin honk, and
I will. Joey Freshwater, come on.
I think he's
about that life.
He is about that life. That's a game that Lane Kiffin will lose when he probably shouldn't, and he will. Give him I'm going 1/2 on that game.
Mississippi, Ole Miss, 9.5 wins is their over under if you're comparing.
Same as
so if you can coin flip it, I'm good with that.
So we're 4-1, 5-1.
We were 1, 2, 3, 4.5. That will make it an even 5.
1.
We're going wins. We're going by wins. I'm just counting wins. The halves are coin flips.
Oh, okay. So you're 5. All right, there you go, 5.
Yep. Then LSU goes to Arkansas. I think that's a win. Call it 6. Then at Texas A&M. I don't know what's going on there.
7.
Yeah. Let's look at their. Yeah, 8.5 is their over under. We'll give them a win. So 7. Bama comes to LSU. Oh, that's going to be a fun game. Night. So if it's a night game, which it should be, that's always a good one. But I'm kind
Bama
of
at
leaning.
LSU, depleted Bama team. I like I like the swamp, man. Or whatever. No, Death Valley.
Yeah. You give them a half, or are you going to give them a full?
I'm giving them the full.
Okay. All right. Is that 6?
At least.
Yeah.
No, it's 7. A&M
7.
was
Yeah,
6.
7. All right. Then at the swamp, speaking of, LSU goes to Gainesville. That's a win, right?
Well, I've been giving them all these things. They're also going to stub their toe here somewhere.
Okay.
I give them a half on that.
Okay. 8.5. Vandy comes to
7.5.
town.
7.5.
All right. So now we're at 8.5. Right? Vandy
Yeah,
comes to
Vandy. I
town.
give them Vandy for sure.
Then Oklahoma, new SEC powerhouse, comes to LSU. Why do they get all these tough teams at home? Jesus. It's a nice schedule. I don't know what to expect from Oklahoma. That's a coin flip for me.
I
even
expect
at
Oklahoma to do shitty in the SEC. I got LSU on that one.
They got Oklahoma at 7.5 wins. Okay. So I think we're going over, Tyler. We're over, right?
Yeah, is there any games left?
9.5. That was the over under. We went over. That was it.
Is that the last game?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Oklahoma at LSU.
I don't. All right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's where we hit it.
I think we just squeaked over it at 10 with a couple of coin flips mixed in there.
Again,
And,
because
you know,
I
they're
just
gonna
feel like they're gonna beat Bama and they're gonna lose at Florida.
yeah, they're gonna stub their toe, you know, somewhere they shouldn't. It's Brian Kelly's team, by the way, so obviously. So we got you, Tyler. We're going over for LSU. If you win any money on that, obviously chip us off 10%. Steven says Armstrong Brothers were active in recruiting. Oh, yeah. Armstrong Brothers are huge in recruiting, man, in that 2024 class. Big time. And they're probably still working on these 2025 guys. So going forward, yeah, the Armstrong Brothers are big time recruiters for the Buckeyes. Same with the Sanchez family. Devin's mom and
Armstrong,
dad,
that's the 2 linemen out of St.
the
Ed's, right?
twins. Yeah, right. Yeah. Those guys are good. Those guys are big time.
Nice.
Odysseus says O-line doesn't translate to recruiting as much as WRs. Take more development. That's true. Yeah, your wide receivers are not going to come in. I mean, your O-line is not going to come in and start as a freshman. You know, that just doesn't happen.
Well, they
Your
shouldn't
occasional-
because we've had guys in there 3 or 4 years ahead of them.
Mhm.
Right. And
Right.
if they do start, you got problems. Like when we started Michael Jordan as a freshman, who was the
Yes,
first
that was-
freshman to start since Orlando Pace.
That was out of need. Yep. Exactly. Yeah, that should not have been the case, but poor recruiting, you know, that was an issue. That should never
I
happen
mean,
again.
you say poor, but I mean, all those kids that we got that are poor, we're still not all of them. Most of them were legit 4-star kids or whatever. And you get enough of them, it's like it should still be better than most.
But
And
all right, then it's bad development. It's one or the other.
I think it has been bad. I think it's been we haven't got the dudes, and I don't feel like we've developed that much.
Hmm.
Like I said, O-line coach, he's the one on the hottest seat this year. But I gotta imagine.
Well,
I gotta imagine
Fry's only
Kelly's
been there a
gonna
couple
do-
of years. Some of these issues go back multiple years, you know. I mean, Coach Stud is not a great developer of talent.
Okay, I know, but I'm saying now you're in your third year. This is you now. I give him a pass. I feel like everybody's been like, "Oh yeah, this is such a great thing." Well, I haven't seen it yet, and so uh, I think it's going to be much improved just because Chip Kelly. I think he's probably going to be involved in that deal as well.
Yep.
And I do expect, no matter what five it is out there, a better play at the O-line position.
Oh yeah, it has to get better. There's no doubt. It almost can't get worse at this point. I feel like last year was close to rock bottom almost. Let's finish up the chat here as we close it out. But I agree with Odysseus's point. O-line versus wide receivers. The O-line take a lot more time to get on the field. Wide receivers, you see, for example, Jeremiah Smith getting on the field immediately. I know he's a rare case, but other receivers have gotten on the field in spring games as freshmen. Odysseus says it's harder to rate how good they'll pan out. Yeah, good point. He says Clemson's too small a brand to be a blue blood. Exactly. They are a small fucking school with a small fucking fan base. I'm not sure you could find a Clemson fan outside of South Carolina. I honestly don't think you could.
I don't know. I hear families up here that, fly their kids to Clemson and
really
things like that. Yeah, I think you're underestimating that brand and a little bit. And again, for about
I think I underestimated that.
I don't know how many years it was, but that was a good 6-7 year run where Clemson was fucking legit.
Yeah, it was.
But I'm with you 100% out of nowhere. Like, what? How's Clemson like a badass now? Where did that come from?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that run came to an end, and I'm not sure they're ever going to get back to that level. I don't see how it happens. I don't see it. And they are too small of a brand to ever have enough resources to be a true blue blood. Going back to the point. Odysseus says, the Cheaters are 56th ranked recruiting class and dropping 102nd in the portal. Yeah, I'm not surprised, which is funny because the portal is where they made a lot of hay on that O-line. Remember that? That's where they brought in a lot of their 25-year-old seniors.
Is that where a national champion, 15-0 undefeated team and they're whatever in recruiting? That's not a blue blood program. It's you're a TCU, you're a team that did it, but no one wants to go there. The money's not behind it. Again, I know what they are. Michigan, it's huge. Traditionally, if it's tradition, they are blue blood. But to me, they are not. I mean, they're obviously our threat and our hatred going forward and forever. But I don't think they're a big threat to college football in general.
What about this
I just
thought?
don't.
Are they teetering on the brink of being in Colorado? In the fact that in using the portal like as 50% of your roster, are they coming to that brink, you think? Because they're not even trying in high school recruiting. Like Prime. I can't hear you. But
you got to remember, they just got half their fucking coaching staff put together here not too long ago. I mean, that program is the guys that stayed.
We're
that
champions.
might push them. No, but they've got some. They still have some serious dudes. They got those D tackles. They got Edwards.
Defense is good.
And they got Will Johnson, who's, who may end up being the best corner in the country this year. He's a flat out stud. He'll be right up there with our guys. If you ask me, like, of Michigan players who would start at Ohio State, and I would say, and obviously, our loaded ass secondary, but Will Johnson would probably still start, and that Mason Graham, or that one D tackle that's an absolute difference maker, he would start. They'd probably have an O lineman or something to start, but Edwards would be in the conversation with our guys. I think those three, Henderson, Keyshawn, and Edwards are all top 5 running backs in college football.
Okay. All right, let's wrap it up here. Steven says Oklahoma and the SEC will be similar to Nebraska joining the Big Ten. Yeah, in other words, they're going to get smoked. Yes. Back to the kids' pool. Steven also says saw Tressel wearing Notre Dame gear at their spring game in support of Freeman. I wanted to puke. I'm glad I didn't see that, Steven, because I would definitely puke.
I don't mind it. Tressel's
you get it. You understand it. What are you going to do? It's fucking Tressel. He's all right. Not a bad guy. He means well.
He's a great guy, and I'm for it.
He's retired.
I mean, I don't hate Notre Dame's coach because he's Notre Dame's coach, not ours. I don't hate Luke Fickell.
It would be hard to see, though, the visual of seeing JT in blue and gold. Yeah. All right, folks. Appreciate everybody joining us. Please visit the BuckeyeCast.com. The video vault's there, up and running. We got all the gear, shirts, hats, all the shit. Check it out. Everything's on sale. And if nothing else, just hit like on the video. If you're bored, just hit that. It doesn't cost you anything. If you're subscribed, I greatly appreciate it. It helps other Buckeye fans find the show. So appreciate you, Shawn, joining us.
Yes, sir.
We will talk to you next week.
Peace.
Go Bucks.